Peace, 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 peace. Peace, love, and light to all American Aborigines. Your brother Aboriginal Power, man. We tuned into another Wake and Bake show, man. Today, man, we're going to be dealing with ancient cloning and the history of incubator babies, right? And who created the pale skin part two, man. This is all part two, man. So let's get right into it. Hit that like button, thumb up the video. Let's go.
Whatever it takes, the alleyway. Feelings from the past, yeah, you gotta pay attention. Feelings from the past, yeah, you gotta pay attention. They won't say my name, but they put it in a mention. Too much sneak dissing, yeah, we need an intervention. Right before the fall, I swear my niggas, they won't listen. Right before the fall, you took them pills, you got addicted. Right before the fall, you run your mouth, you turn to dentist. Free my niggas in the cage, know that shit get lonely. You was with me from the start, but you did me phony. Look my bitch right in the eyes, tell her she my only. Poppin' shit on Instagram, they don't even know me. Had to turn my savage up to turn me to the old me. Killers moving silent, so I gotta kill them softly. Lie better, little baby, but lie better. You playing the other side on God out. Trendsetter, no talking, I did better. They watching my moves, playing my moves. I did let up, I kept it 1,000. Niggas get shifty, I did something, I'm moving around. Had to get to it, this bread, something they want me to drown. Remember they told me I was nothing, I've been through some things. On God, baby, I can't front it. Feelings from the past, yeah, you gotta pay attention. They won't say my name, but they put it in a mention. Too much sneak dissing, yeah, we need an intervention. Right before the fall, I swear my niggas, they won't listen. Right before the fall, you took them pills, you got addicted. Right before the fall, you run your mouth, you turn to dentist. Free my niggas in the cage, know that shit get lonely. You was with me from the start, but you did me phony. Look my bitch right in the eyes, tell her she my only. Poppin' shit on Instagram, they don't even know me. Had to turn my savage up to turn me to the old me. Killers moving silent, so I gotta kill them softly. Do better, you said that you do better. These niggas playing at 50, I really got moved better. I got these on my block, I can't play round. I position one my life, I can't play round. We gon' get it back in blood if they stay round. Know them niggas off the drugs, they gon' lay down. I was love, you put me right in the middle. That niggas that screaming gang and niggas that wanna kill you. They got feelings from the past, pay attention. They only sending shots cause these niggas want attention. Won't be no RIP, heli in the mention. Putting threats on my name, make me turn them to a pension. Feelings from the past, yeah, you gotta pay attention. They won't say my name, but they put it in a mention. Too much sneak dissing, yeah, we need an intervention. Right before the fall, I swear my niggas, they won't listen. Right before the fall, you took them pills, you got addicted. Right before the fall, you run your mouth, you turn to dentist. Free my niggas in the cage, know that shit get lonely. You was with me from the start, but you did me phony. Look my bitch right in the eyes, tell her she my only. Poppin' shit on Instagram, they don't even know me. Had to turn my savage up to turn me to the old me. Killers moving silent, so I gotta kill them softly.
Yo, make sure y'all hit that like button, man. We're not even done, man. We just getting the intro. We waiting on a few of the brothers and sisters to tap on into the live stream. So just make sure you hit that like button, support the channel, thumb up the video. You already know what is going on. Y'all see the title, Ancient Cloning, the history of incubator babies, test tube babies, cabbage patch babies, and who created the pale skin part two. Let's go.
I can see your true colors.
Make sure y'all support the channel too, man. Make sure y'all support the channel. Hit that like button. Thumb up them
I can
likes.
see your true colors. Over time, tell me where that trust went. I can see your true colors. That was my dog, but now I can't trust him. I can't trust you. I can see your true colors. Nigga, I can see your true colors. Nigga, just tell me where that trust went.
Parties and celebrations, get money, fucking these bitches, we found some placement inside the city limits. It was small, but yeah, we did it. Try to bring too many niggas all around, yeah, we was tripping. Late night was whipping the bow, is what we called the will. How the fuck we made it alive? Cause the car was shit. Billy called that bitch a death trap. We had blazed and me, young niggas 16 whipping. We was state to state before this shit changed up. There was the good times, remember when Kron grabbed me up off the bus line. Had came from DC for one of y'all birthdays and shit was cool. I met that nigga whole family, shit was cool then. Remember New, remember Breach, and that nigga Mitch. It was Tim Bean and Eli, put up in the wheel. We was on the west side, on some Wilmington shit.
I can see your true colors. That's the fam, but nigga, I can't trust him. I can see your true colors. Over time, tell me where that trust went. I can see your true colors. That was my dog, but now I can't trust him. I can't trust you. I can see your true colors. Nigga, I can see your true colors. Nigga, just tell me where that trust went. Nigga, just tell me where that trust went.
Shout out to all my American Aborigines, man. Make sure y'all drop them fire emojis in the chat if y'all can hear me. We just getting the frequencies of the tunes right, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button, man. We got one or two more jammy jams we're going to play before we get started, man. Y'all already know what this is, man. It's the Wake and Bake Show, man. It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power, man. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. So make sure y'all hit that like button, man.
Whatever it takes.
Make sure y'all hit that like button. It's very important for you guys to do that. Let's go.
Whatever it takes. It's Helly.
Shout out to all my FBA brothers and sisters in the building too, man. Shout out to all y'all. It's all love. Y'all know what it is.
Look. Pressures of being great. I'm tatted with scars. I feel the look from their eyes. I know they gazing from far. Overcoming my fears. I never wanted this life. Been giving them pain. Know my soul been paying the price. Give fuck about the ice. Really, I just give on my life. Been thinking too much. Inside my head, I'm living it twice. Been feeling convicted. Every time I step on this mic, my art form, it come from God. This ain't no gimmick, my nigga. The vision really is vivid. See my canvas and shiver. Every time I'm here to deliver. My ex bitch, she ain't believing. Now she crying me rivers. She got a heavy heart, but ain't no time for reminiscing. Guard my energy, won't turn me to a victim. Believe in my potential, fuck what you projecting. I make you see my words, like this is a projection. I pray to God to calm my soul, yes I need some protection. Ain't busting down my watch, ain't busting down my chains. Got everything to lose, got everything to gain. Yeah, my soul tied to this shit. And I told the opposition that I'll die for this shit. It's you versus you. Never let this fucking world ever tell you who the fuck that you supposed to be. It's you versus you. Never let them tell you who you are. Define yourself, nigga. Focus on your dreams. It's you versus you. Never let this fucking world ever tell you who the fuck that you supposed to be. It's you versus you. Never let them tell you who you are. Define yourself, nigga. Focus on your dreams. It's you versus you. It's you versus you. In conversation with myself, the hardest battle of all. And when you look inside that mirror, are you seeing your flaws? I became a man, and my dad was never involved. But all these people trying to be the same, it's hard to evolve. Gave birth to a poet. Really, I just write what I saw. And all them days alone writing, it was just me and God trying to find my purpose. I needed a sign. Many days I was lost, I was trapped in a bind. The type of fear that I felt, you can feel in your spine. It's me versus me. I knew that I was different from niggas. I talk my shit. And really, I be shitting on niggas. I'm staying humble. Yeah, I'm staying humble. Ain't busting down my watch, ain't busting down my chains. Got everything to lose, got everything to gain. Yeah, my soul tied to this shit. And I told the opposition that I'll die for this shit. It's you versus you. Never let this fucking world ever tell you who the fuck that you supposed to be. It's you versus you. Never let them tell you who you are. Define yourself, nigga. Focus on your dreams. It's you versus you. Never let this fucking world ever tell you who the fuck that you supposed to be. It's you versus you. Never let them tell you who you are. Define yourself, nigga. Focus on your dreams. It's you versus you.
Don't let this fucking place define you.
It's you versus you.
At the end of the day, you gotta look at it. Who are
It's
you?
you versus you.
What do you do this for? They're always gonna tell you what you're supposed to do, but at the end of the day, walk in God's plan.
Make sure y'all hit that like button, man. Thumb up the video. We're going to play one more jammy jam before we get started, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button. It's your brother, Aboriginal Power. Y'all already know what it is. Let me know what city, what state you in. Y'all already know, man. What y'all smoking on this grand robin before we get into, man, we got one-on-ones today.
What the fuck is going on? 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 These raps is like some stretching to me, yeah, they different for me. See my dog pass away, that shit get vivid for me. Praying on my downfall, I won't fall, yeah. Before I jump that porch, we learn how to crawl, yeah. I rose through from the concrete. The shit y'all boys cap about beyond me. I'm a born G. I be kicking out this flame, bitch, like Bruce Lee. I know they speak my name in vain, but I can't worry about it. All this pain that's in my songs, it got me hurting about it. How my niggas doubt me like it's no birdie from me. They talking dollars and baguettes, we still behind the trench. Broad daylight, shooting handguns from behind the fence. I'm with some killers that's gonna hit bout it. In a spot that you got, you might get blicked out and rerouted. How y'all said that y'all believed in me? How y'all said that y'all believed in me? How y'all said, what the fuck is going on? 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 What the fuck is going? These raps are like subscription to me, yeah, they different for me. See my dog pass away, that shit get 50 for me. Praying on my downfall, I won't fall, yeah. Before I jump that porch, we learn how to crawl, yeah. These raps are like subscription to me, yeah, they different for me. See my dog pass away, that shit get 50 for me. Praying on my downfall, I won't fall, yeah. Before I jump that porch, we learn how to crawl, yeah. What the fuck been going on? I got brothers, but y'all moving on. I thought them bonds were strong. Look, tomorrow, hit and promise your dog could be gone. You can't prove me wrong. I can't put another soldier name inside a song. In them trenches, I was back in. Rubber grip that Mac 10. Foundation solid, I got traction. If I don't do it, who taking action? I kill it with passion. I remember back when niggas standing tall for their bottom. That was back when niggas stayed solid and we caught them when they crept in. Ain't one nothing moving on that block till we stepped in. Niggas getting stepped on as soon as niggas caught wind. Raps is like subscription to me, yeah, they different for me. See my dog pass away, that shit get 50 for me. Praying on my downfall, I won't fall, yeah. Before I jump that porch, we learn how to crawl, yeah. These raps is like subscription to me, yeah, they different for me. See my dog pass away, that shit get 50 for me. Praying on my downfall, I won't fall, yeah. Before I jump that porch, we learn how to crawl, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Peace and love to everybody in the building, man. Make sure y'all drop them fire emojis if y'all can hear me loud and clear. We want to make sure we good on everybody in. Shout out to everybody in the building. Shout out to everybody in the motherfucking building. Y'all know the vibes, man. It's your brother, Big Aboriginal Power. Hopefully y'all enjoying y'all great grand rising, man. And hopefully y'all enjoying y'all grand rising, man. Y'all know the vibes, man. I do want to take the time out to shout out everybody that's in the chat right now. So, drop them fire emojis. Let me know where you at right now before we even get into the information. We got a fire one. We're going to pick up the part 2 to where we left off at yesterday. We're going to be breaking down this ancient cloning science and technology and compare it to the incubator technology that all of a sudden disappeared that they displayed during the Philadelphia and Chicago's World's Fair. So we're going to be getting into that. But before I get into that, I want to take the time out to shout out some of the brothers and sisters that's in that took their time out to comment in the comment section. So let's get to it. Shout out to Skittles Conway, Janine C, Fat Check TV, Sagittarius Jones, It's a Mindset, Quick Stanfield, Craig Lloyd, Oz Aboriginal, Khalil Finch, 2T Cups, who else we got in here? A.V. Dots, Jamal Moore L. Shout out to my brother from across the pond. Good to see you in the building, brother. Good to see you in the building. Who else we got in here this grand rising? We got Rodney Lewis in the building. Well, shout out to Rodney Lewis in the building. Put him on Blast TV. Who else we got in here? Sagittarius Jones, Aboriginal React. Shout out to my sister Peaches. Goddess NRG, excuse me. Goddess NRG. Jeremy Royster. Shout out to you. Shout out to Jeremy Royster. Keith Quiller. Atanchinist Goddess. Yanetta Ya. Luel Grassroots. Khalil L. And Garfield Rule. Shout out to all you brothers and sisters in the motherfucking building, man. Y'all know the fucking vibes, man. Tommy Boy in the building. What's going on, Tommy? Pop Reed. Make sure y'all show some love to my elder Pop Reed in the building. Make sure y'all show some extra love to the elders. We love to show the elders extra love in the chat, man. Shout out to all the Aborigines, American Indians, and FBA brothers and sisters tuning in. Shout out to Reginald Jones as well. So y'all know the fucking vibe. Y'all know this the Wake and Bake Show. You already seen me expose the whole Cabbage Patch Babies, the origin of how these pale skins probably even came about. That's just my theory. This is just my theory. This is my theory. And we know that they're still cloning people today for particular reasons. We'll get into that in a second. Shout out to my big sister Chick Harmony Roots as well. Shout out to Big Chicken Harmony Roots in the motherfucking building. Man, make sure y'all support the channel too. I'm gonna need y'all to really support the channel. Support the channel, man. Support the channel. Y'all know every live stream that I do is sponsored by Asteroid. Shout out to Asteroid. So if y'all want to smoke premium, good herb, hand grown, no chemicals, and grown and packaged by Aboriginal, make sure you go to Asteroid Co on Instagram. Make sure you go to Asteroid Co on Instagram. DM him using promotion code Aborigine, and you'll get the Aboriginal discount on whatever your requirements is, whether it's merch, herbs, CBD, gummies, edibles, or just want to conversate for some tips and tools to maneuver through this system, man. So shout out to everybody in the building, man. Y'all know this the part of the show where we like to wood up, and we're gonna get right into the information, man. I'm not even gonna hold you guys up any longer. I'm not even gonna hold you guys up any longer. So light that motherfucking CBD up. Light that motherfucking CBD up, and you good to go. Light that CBD up, and you good to go. So shout out to everybody in the building, man. So hopefully everybody is enjoying themselves. Y'all seen us break down how these like I said, my brother Hawk School been breaking down the orphan trains for a little minute now. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just piggyback off of it to tell them where these motherfucking pale skins come from. They come straight out of an easy bake oven. They come straight out of an easy bake oven. It's not ironic that all these people pop up out of nowhere in America, Ellis Island, throughout all across the world. These people was getting cooked and made, and in the facilities where they was getting made from was getting overcrowded. So they came up with an elaborate plan to act like they got these refugees, all of a sudden orphan kids that came out of fucking nowhere with no parents that wanted them by the hundreds of thousands. And y'all believed it. One of your great grandmamas probably adopted one of these little things. And now they grown up to be Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg. These are incubator babies. These are Cabbage Patch kids. These are test tube babies. These are genetically altered humans. These motherfuckers came out the easy bake. I'm just letting you know. So listen, they even creating people for certain reasons. They create people for certain tasks. You see how they were trying to make giants. They done made a motherfucker that can withstand any car wreck. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? They have created a person that can withstand any car wreck. His body is just genetically made to just be crashed and bammed up against, flipped, and he looked ridiculous, bro. You can tell this motherfucker had too much mayonnaise in the soup when they put him in the microwave. I'm not even gonna hold you up any longer, you guys. Let me light my wood up. Y'all know it's a pleasure. We gotta light the wood up. Is this man for real? Yeah, absolutely. Let's get right into it.
This is Graham. He may look a little strange, but you would too if your body was built to survive. This is Graham. Look a little strange, but you would too if your body was built to survive this.
Human body has a limited capability to absorb the energy that's encountered in crashes. The goal with Graham was to try to design a human to withstand crashes by absorbing more kinetic energy than what an average human can. I'm David Logan, and I'm a crash investigator.
He said the idea was to design a human that can withstand any type of car wreck. Do you understand? They designed him. They created him. Another Billy.
Encountered in crashes. The goal with Graham was to try to design a human to withstand crashes by absorbing more kinetic energy than what an average human can. I'm David Logan, and I'm a crash investigation expert.
For 15 years, David and his team at Monash University in Australia have been studying the impact of car crashes.
We carry out a full investigation of the crash. We look at the injuries the person sustained. We also look at the car that they were travelling in, and we visit the crash site as well.
Speed is almost always a factor.
Humans have been around on Earth for 3-4 million years. And it's only in the last 120 years that we've been...
Man, y'all asking, is this little thing real? Yeah. My nigga Graham is real. Graham is a real person that they done put in the microwave and incubated just for the test crash, to test car crashes. This nigga's a live birth incubator baby strictly for get in the car and we gonna wreck that shit. You remember Don't Be a Menace when it was like, come here, we need you to be a crash dummy. He was like, yeah, they created a real crash dummy, man. This is from the same science of the incubator babies. This goes back to the test tube babies. This goes back to the ancient gene splicing that your ancestors did that they call the cloning technology or the twinning science or the age of Gemini is when they was doing these twinning and cloning methods. Y'all don't understand this. This is stolen science. And they done showed you, they done created a nigga that can withstand any car crash.
Being able to transport ourselves at speeds that are way in excess of what our bodies are able to withstand. In a sense, the transport system has evolved way more quickly than what we as humans have been able to do.
To create Graham, artist Patricia Piccinini began with a sculpture and slowly transformed it into a full-blown crash protection structure.
Graham is a wonderful example of art meeting science. We had a lot of very complex concepts relating to energy dissipation, the physics of crashes, and our job was to talk with the artist and help her to understand the sorts of ways in which the human body could be improved. For example, Graham has a very thick skull. It's multiple layers of bone. It's almost like a bicycle.
They're going to say my boy Graham got a thick skull. No kidding, huh? See, listen, man, I'm not even about to play these games with y'all. I'm not even about to look at that little thing. I'm just showing you these are incubator babies. Y'all letting this shit go too far. This shit is serious. These people has been stolen your science. See, this when they first started showing you the incubator babies in the 1800s during the Chicago World's Fair, just know that the Chicago's World's Fair was an exhibit of the prior science and technology that was here in America prior to these people setting sail and settling here. So what they did is took ownership, gathered all this shit, created this whole exposition to display all this marvelous science. And you had travelators, you had huge machinery buildings, and in the midst of all this, you have incubators, baby incubators, where they often advertise baby incubators with live infants, as if it was dead infants in the other ones. See, y'all gotta pay attention to the wordage. Y'all gotta pay attention to the wordage. Y'all not fucking paying attention. Y'all think these billies done came from Europe when the science, the white people today tell you that niggas was already in Europe. You think that they came from there. Y'all gotta wake the fuck up, man. On some G shit. Y'all gotta wake up, man. Y'all run around lost. Let's get into the rest of this, man. Let's get into these Cabbage Patch Kids, man. We ain't gonna hold you up too long. Let's go.
Postcards from the 1900s.
Damn, why this shit so low?
Examples of compositing. There isn't much information on these.
All right, here we go.
If there's a catalog, it's not easy to come by. But many of these are early examples of photo manipulation. They had surreal, real photo postcards, in which they would attempt to trick people with the illusion of photography. As we continued to look through these old postcards, a very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent. It began with just simple baby postcards. At first thought, seems like any ordinary postcard. But as with the same sky postcard mystery, where the author began to see a trend of a variety of postcards?
Yeah.
Well,
Listen, one of the earliest films in the 1900s is called The Cabbage Patch Kids Fairy. And what it shows is this lady dressed of royal significance in the cabbage patch picking up kids. That's just she about to get ready to perform a meal. You got to understand, these babies are incubator babies. Where do these pale skins come from? They had a show out called a movie that came out called The Garbage Pail Kids. Do you know who they was talking about?
well,
Stay tuned. We're gonna
there's a
break some of this
category
shit
of
down.
postcards that deserves its own name and label, but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it the mystery of the repopulation postcards.
Sorry about the ads, you guys. Sorry about the ads, but listen, we're just gonna get through this because this is gonna line you up to the rest of the shit. We're gonna pick right off where we was yesterday here in the next 15 minutes.
There are
So just
other
stay
names for
tuned.
this style, such as baby postcards. By the end of this video, you'll be shocked at how many of these there are. We're talking in the thousands. We found one reference to what these cards were in a book on Amazon named Babylon, Surreal Babies, in which the author describes these same peculiar 1900s postcards and how they were deeply influential to many famous artists, including Salvador Dali. Yet, the author even admits that little is known of their history. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and oddfellows will be necessary. These cards depict babies being grown.
Grown in what? Grown in cabbage patches. So the Cabbage Patch theme, the movie Cabbage Patch Babies in the Fairy, the whole Cabbage Patch Baby anything is a metaphor and a promotion of incubator babies. This is a way for them to usher in this new remotely genetically spliced human into society, and they did it by way of orphan trains, which we'll get into that later on. If you haven't have an understanding of what the orphan trains is, go to my brother Hawk School channel, and he breaks that down pretty clear.
There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch Babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies.
Yeah, and if you look at the Cabbage Patch dolls, the Cabbage Patch Kids dolls, which my mama had one as a kid and she kept it forever. And I remember looking on the side of it. It had like this little tag or like this little certificate of birth. It said, it have no parents, have no origin. It don't have no parents. That was weird to me when I've always seen that. When I even as a kid, and now it makes even more sense that no, they don't have parents. These are incubator babies. These are a promotion that it's a cool thing to be cool or to adopt or to have one of these incubator babies in your house. They was promoting this. Why?
Babies on plants. Babies on
Why would you
mushrooms.
put a baby on a plant for? You only put a baby in a plant to metaphorically say that we're growing babies. How do you grow a baby? In a incubator, in a test tube, sciencely grown. Come on, wake up, y'all. Yeah, the video is real low. I don't know why the audio is real low, but shout out to my brother. Don't do it for the $1 cash out donation. It is real low. I don't know why it's real low like this.
Babies and eggs being hatched. Then the babies arrive on the train.
Make sure y'all support the channel too, man. Support the channel. We just getting started. This is like the pre enamel to the video. This is all in the late 1800s, early 1900s.
As if someone's trying to tell us something.
Recordings just got better.
Sorry about the ads, you guys.
It's stayed number 3 years.
Sorry about
so
the
excited
ads.
to announce that.
We've also got kids in Cabbage Patches. Does this have anything to do with the Cabbage Patch Kids? So where do babies come from? In the early 1900s, the most common answer given to children would simply be that the stork would bring the babies, or that they were found in a cabbage patch. But why would babies be found in cabbage patches? The legend of the Cabbage Patch Kids involves a young boy named Xavier who meets a mystical fairy bunny bee creature, so a hybrid or chimera, and he follows this bunny bee through a secret tunnel behind a waterfall. On the other side of this waterfall, he finds that babies are being produced in a cabbage patch. The stork, known as Colonel Casey, would then come and pick up the babies. He even has his own uniform. So he's a worker, a soldier, as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids' official historian that would then deliver the babies to their new homes. Not only that, but there's an evil witch named Lavender McDay. She and her weasel and jackrabbit henchmen are literally trying to enslave the Cabbage Patch Kids to be miners to dig for gold in the valley. You can get all the exposition for the lore and the story through their 10-song album.
So it says somebody created them to use them as a slave race. Now, do we have any connection to the word slave being connected with pale-skinned people? Of course. Slave go back to Slavic. Slavic is credited to being pale-skinned people. They're telling you that a certain other race of people who was here, dominant Negroes, created this incubator baby, white people, pale skins, and made them as slaves. Come on, man. It's right here in your face.
Named Lavender McDay. She and her weasel and jackrabbit henchmen are literally trying to enslave the Cabbage Patch Kids to be miners to dig for gold in the valley. You can get all the exposition for the lore and the story through their 10-song album. It goes over how they were created, to the witch, to even a lament about their enslavement. It's pretty dark. The original concept for the cloth dolls was created by Martha Nelson Thomas, and she called them doll babies. And the story really had nothing to do with cabbages or chimeras or witches. It wasn't until Xavier Roberts, or Xavier, like the little boy in the story, hijacked her design that it became what it is today. So I can't help but wonder if Xavier Roberts just came up with the story all on his own. Like, did it come to him from the collective consciousness? Or does he just have a soft spot for child labor? There's actually a place you can go in White County, Georgia, where they do live births, and you can look it up on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. The bunny bee character also is a hybrid creature of two animals that both symbolize rebirth and resurrection on a mass scale. As we know, rabbits reproduce in droves, and the bee symbolism makes me think of a hive, or a queen or source where all the offsprings originate from. It would seem that this is some sort of reference to babies being created in a lab on a mass scale. Why were there so many orphans? Most common answer will be, the baby boom. But this didn't happen until 1946 to 1964. These postcards are from 1890 to 1910. And there's really no explanation for the burst of orphans that we see being brought into the United States, or the amount of orphanages and asylums that exist that no longer seem to be necessary. Could the baby boom narrative be a way to sweep this part of history under the rug? The orphanages were all shut down, and after the 60s, people just stopped having babies and getting married after World War II, according to the narrative. Then there were the incubators of the 1900s. It's difficult to keep premature babies alive with modern technology, yet they were doing this back in 1835 in Europe. They turned this into a sideshow, where at the world fairs they would show off these child hatcheries, these incubators of live children. And for some reason, the royals would come and witness these events. So there's this genetic manipulation cloning.
Yeah, we know the Royals was coming. That's a fact. I told y'all in the last video that the Royals actually took the patent and turned this public incubator business to a private entity. So, and they was going there because these royal people of England today, that we call England today, eat children. They eat children. That's why the whole early 1900s was even metaphorically speaking of kids being grown in cabbages, in cabbage patches. Cabbage is an edible crop that we use in a lot of dishes, and is commonly used in Europe a lot. So that was metaphorically saying that they was growing these children to eat them.
Witness these events. So there's this genetic manipulation cloning idea in which these babies are actually being grown in some sort of pods. Perhaps the symbolism of the Cabbage Patch mirrors that process. Humans do resemble plants in the way that we're connected to a stem in our fetal state, and our whole lives are spent ripening. In the fetal abduction theory, we typically see a nurse-looking woman with either a fishing hook or a fishing net pulling a child out of the water. Perhaps the hook and net represent medical tools and the water amniotic fluid. In either scenario, it would make sense that these babies have to end up in incubators or hatcheries. And it begs the question, how did all these premature babies get here? If women back in, these days were having babies prematurely, why in such large numbers? And the babies all being babies, they'd have to have traveled there somehow within a short period of time. What are the chances that so many premature babies were driven from wherever their mothers were?
Yeah, what's the odds of 100,000 women being pregnant at the same time? Huh? What's the odds of 100,000 women, 50,000, 10,000 women in the same area being pregnant?
People to view them
in one area.
some sort of exhibition or sideshow, and not a pressing matter of life and death. For centuries, the stork has been thought of as a symbol for new beginnings and family lineage. The idea that this creature represents life-giving events also makes sense because storks are monogamous creatures, and they mate only once every year with their partners that they've chosen beforehand, choosing mates based solely on personality instead of looks, like many other birds. Now we've got kids inside a train. Orphan trains. Why so many orphans? Were these orphans taken from their families? Were they trained to instruct a new generation of genetically created babies? Or were they womb-napped babies? And we've got kids growing on trees.
And man, we about to get into the next part of the video. You notice, because she just made me think of something that you notice, and when she says storks, it was a movie that came out called Storks not too long ago, and it's making me think about it right now as we speak. It was about babies. It was about babies. As a matter of fact, let's play the clip right now from Storks. Let's go. Look, you notice it's a baby. That's the main character, a baby.
Listen, I'm the alpha. I'm gonna eat this thing first. I'm gonna be the new alpha. No, there's no need for a new alpha. I'm the alpha. You're not even a beta.
So now listen. They already talking about the baby who gonna eat the baby. The movie Storks is implying about babies. We already said that the stork was symbolized in the old fashion of getting inker babies, Cabbage Patch babies, grown babies. Come on, man. It's right here in front of your eyes. Let's finish looking at this clip, though.
Listen, I'm the alpha. I'm gonna eat this thing first. I'm gonna be the new alpha. No, there's no need for a new alpha. I'm the alpha. You're not even a beta.
This is from the movie Storks, y'all.
What just happened there? What did that thing just do? What's that? I'm sorry, where were we? Oh, yeah. I'm gonna devour this thing. I'm gonna bite her arm clean off. You didn't bite her arm. You didn't bite her arm. Tastes like flowers. Okay, stand aside.
You see what I'm saying?
I did this.
This is the movie Storks. It's about a baby. What's the odds of it being about a baby? In the movie Storks is referencing, in the ancient historical tales is referring to a fucking anchor baby. Come on, man. The gig is up, man. The gig is up. The gig is up. I don't know what else to say. We're going to get into some more right now, though. So let's get into it, man. Let's finish where we left off at yesterday. Let's get into it.
Successful baby raising are 1. Absolute quiet and no unnecessary interference on the part of the nurses. 2. Regular and judicious feeding. 3. Uniformity of temperature above that suited to adults. This condition is difficult of attainment in ordinary life, but much may be accomplished by the knowledge that infants require a higher temperature. Even modified observance of the foregoing conditions would take away much of the worry caused by crying and sleepless babies and would add greatly to the quiet, health, and growth of our children. It's all very strange because it seems that they're treating babies as if it was a new thing. And he even compares French babies being grown by artificial means in comparison to French chickens. And this is the literal origin of the baby incubator, being that it was just an ordinary chicken incubator. On top of that, they said that they built these incubators on the side of the foundling hospitals, so they were connected. Why did the foundling hospital have all these premature babies? Did they find them? That doesn't make that much sense. Sure, you can say that the Catholic Church was taking babies, but even then, that's very suspicious. Why were they under 6 months old? Is it possible that they found a way to create babies, but it took them a while to figure out how to keep these prematures alive once rediscovering some type of ancient cloning process? The idea is that these foundlings were abandoned, that because they were unmarried, they had to give them away to these infant asylums. This is deeply integrated into the history of New York, but the history is not well known. Quote, Europe faced the problem of foundlings much sooner than the United States did. When America's British settlers stepped off their boats in the early 17th century, Europe already had cities large enough to create the social conditions that produced significant numbers of foundlings, as well as the religious and governmental structures with which to help them. By then, Europe already had foundling asylums that were several centuries old. By the 18th century, when the United States was just starting and its cities were still small, infant abandonment was a mass phenomena in places like London and Paris. It took until the 19th century for New York to overtake London as a center of Dickensian urban ills, including the presence of large numbers of foundlings. In the Catholic countries of Europe, and also in Russia, with variations depending upon time and place, local and national governments, often together with religious bodies, assumed full responsibility for foundlings. Accidentally conceived infants were anonymously absorbed into large urban foundling asylums.
So, Ethel, I was thinking.
I remember that the whole orphan thing was a big thing. They used to advertise nanny to us when we was in school. They used to talk about the mental asylums where they had all these white kids and shit that was supposedly mentally deranged, and they was doing shock therapy and all kind of shit on them people. I think these was experimental hospitals, and where they did the gene splicing right now in Delaware under J.P. Morgan and DuPont. They have something called the experimental hospital. They're doing gene splicing there. You can look it up right now.
These asylums were at the center of great networks of wet nurses, transporters of babies, physicians, religious officials, and bureaucrats. This was the so-called Catholic system.
I told you this is how they raise. Look, 20 years, a Tennessee baby thief kidnapped more than 5,000 children from the street and hospital. How the fuck you get 5,000 children, lady? Unless you was plugged in with the incubator system. Think about it. These people done grew up to be your politicians. The niggas who controlling this motherfucking system, who got you hooked up to YouTube and Instagram. They made you to hook up your soul to a soulless device because they're soulless entities created in a microwave, so to speak.
Its goal was to preserve the honor of unmarried women and families by making babies born outside of marriage disappear. End quote. Now that is the mainstream narrative that this was some type of problem. But the truth of the matter is, these were Protestants. They didn't even care or prosecute people for having sex because they had brothels everywhere. So the question is, did they really just find these babies? Why the use of Lady Liberty and Artemis of Ephesus? Was it a problem that was created on purpose? Some type of operation? And what's with the references to giant babies in that one report from the Canada Lancet? It does seem that size comes to play here, as not only do many legends speak of ancient cities being created by an advanced race of giants, but the Greek gods and goddesses themselves seem to be referring to these ancient beings. The Amazons are described in many different ways by Greek authors, which is interesting because they are said to be a warlike race that would kill all the baby boys who were bound by their earth instincts, and their father goddess being Ares, the god of war. But why would the Amazons worship a man god? They were moon worshippers, so it's more likely they were the original creators of the Diana of Ephesus symbol, their goddess being a fertility symbol, as although they did not allow men into their tribes, they were described as being bound to sexual desires. I don't think that is the case, but it is a mistranslation that they were attempting to repopulate with a new type of human. This is the origin of Eros, or Cupid, in which a hybrid human was created that had formed two polarities, male and female. Think about it. Remember Futurama and the Amazon women? They were trying to have snoo snoo? With the purpose of what? Repopulation. Now come on guys, you guys know that Matt Groening knows some deep stuff and that is no mere coincidence. They also are giants, so it doesn't make sense that they would really have sexual intercourse with such small humans. This is just a play on the process in which these Amazon women giants created a new hybrid man in which they changed the age and added orifices for eating, drinking, and pooping. How else would a civilization of only women survive? They would need some type of repopulation program, whether it used technology or not, and this is never really fully investigated by historians. We know of ancient farming and breeding facilities in regards to agriculture or meats, but what about human farming? Was that ever thought about by the ancients? If there was some cataclysm and a nation had lost almost all of its people, was it ever thought that, hey, we need to find a way to repopulate this place? I mean, I feel like that's going to be one of the first things you're going to think about when starting a civilization. It's pretty basic, but to what degree? And was there technology used in the process? If so,
Zell, I was thinking.
Well, we know it was technology obviously used in this process. So we're gonna get into this. I do a part 3 because I'm gonna have to break down the ancient gene splicing of human beings, which gave birth to the twinning gene. For you to be able to have twins came from an altered gene splicing of trying to clone.
possible to actually design, in the case of eugenics, specific traits to be desired in the final outcome. All of these things are left to the vault of esoteric history. However, with the right questions, we can begin to look at these subjects with new eyes. This isn't restricted to just whites, as in the story of Calafia. These Montalvo novels, which are actually from an earlier unknown 14th century writer during the Islamic rule of Spain, They traveled to America, and in California used to exist a race of giant black warrior women who also were very fond of griffins. It seems throughout history, remnants of multiple tribes of godlike women races have existed and were called to be used in some war. As for Calafia, it was the Muslims versus the Christians in Constantinople. The Amazons are also deeply connected with the Scythians, as it is said at some point the two intermarried and created a new race of Scythians called Sauromateans. Quote, the 5th century BC historian Herodotus did the best to fill in the missing.
Man, listen, we got a lot of stories that go into it. When you get into the story of the warriors of Wakanda, and I ain't talking about the movie comic book, I'm talking about in Missouri, that was part of the Hopewell. It was a tribal women tribe that they called the Wakanda tribe. They was all warrior women, tall as hell. If you a twin, that means somewhere down your lineage at one part, or however it goes, one of them was altered and was used in a scientific experiment almost 20,000 years ago that they try to use the cloning process. And it was a tweak in the genetic alter that gave birth to the twinning gene. So we get into that on another note, man. I need everybody to drop a fire emoji in the chat, man, before we continue. I'm gonna need everybody to drop a fire emoji in the chat before we continue. Shout out to everybody in the building. I want to say peace and love coming from Big Operational Power to the chat. Hopefully everybody's having a blissful day. Make sure y'all share the live stream. Hit that like button for your brother. And if you enjoying the live stream and the content, support the channel. You feel me? Cash App and PayPal information is ticking across at the bottom of the screen. Y'all support the channel, man. The real support the real. You feel me? Let's continue.
Gabs, the father of history as he is known, located the Amazonian capital at Themyscira, a fortified city on the banks of the Thermodon River near the...
Why would they say Amazonian if they're not talking about the Amazon? And we know the Amazon was a spot in America that was being occupied by Aboriginals.
Coast of the Black Sea, and what is now northern Turkey.
Let's run that back.
The father of history, as he is known, located the Amazonian capital at Themyscira, a fortified city on the banks of the Thermodon River near the coast of the Black Sea in what is now northern Turkey. The women divided their time between pillaging expeditions as far afield as Persia and closer to home, founding such famous towns as Smyrna, Ephesus, Sinope, and Paphos. Procreation was confined to an annual event with a neighboring tribe. End quote. There were many tribes of warrior women, but I think that is just the surface level of the symbol. As we discussed with the androgynous beings, they had a different form in mind, no need to eat and drink, and were essentially gods. Wonder Woman, Lady Liberty, the mother of immigrants, Athena. Well, just as the owl is the symbol of Minerva, the bee is a symbol of Artemis. The bee of Artemis. Quote, the early association of the bee with the cult of Artemis is attested by varied evidence. It appears not only upon the strange polymastoid statue of the Ephesian goddess, but upon the earliest coins of her city. As the owl was the emblem of Athena at Athens, so the bee seems to have been the emblem of Artemis at Ephesus. Although the extant examples of the polymastoid statue are all of late date, it is hardly possible that the type with its medley of elements can have been a late Hellenistic creation.
Brawler, it's time!
Listen, I told y'all that the royal family got the hands on this incubator cloning process, and they've been cloning children to eat them. This gave birth to what they call the adrenochrome. You know, these people searching and drinking blood, looking for, trying to get the adrenochrome. This goes back to bloodletting. This goes back to the ancient royal rituals of baby eating, going all the way back to the Hebraic text. Princess Diana even told that she said she's seen in England and other royals eating babies, man.
So important was the bee in the cult of Artemis that her priestesses received the name of Melissa, or bee. There is no direct evidence that the Ephesian priestesses of the goddess
I
wore
don't
that title,
subscribe to the
but the
Queen
assumption that
Khalifa,
she
bro. I
did
didn't
is
say
justified
anything,
for the
bro.
monument cited. Another such title was Beekeeper. The first priestess with the title probably served in the temple of Apollo, there which bees had made of wax. These Apolline bees must have had some relation to the bees of Artemis, the twin sister of the god. End quote. You can even see the bee on old coins and statues. Remember the bunny bee from the Cabbage Patch story? Well, the honeybee was a sacred symbol in antiquity, and civilization supposedly worshipped it for its life-affirming gifts of honey. But the bee and queen bees are associated with several goddesses, and there's never really a good reason why this would be the case. Is it possible that the queen bee is the source mother in which the entire colony is created? Our population, and the beehives are the factories in which they are produced. This symbolism is prevalent throughout our entire culture, where the queen bees select worker bees and soldier bees, or has the ability of birthing different offspring to complete different tasks as in a monarchy. Each bee has a specific task to support the queen and the entire hive mind. So, are queen bees ancient goddesses? Quote, the opinion of Ramsay that the image of Artemis is not human at all, but related to bees, is quite reasonable. He says that Artemis is the queen bee. Her image makes this plain, and that the breasts are in fact ova. The bee features strongly on very many Ephesian coins and on Artemis images. It has been suggested that the very name of the city is from the Lydian language and means place of many bees. End quote. We refer to the sculpture as the multi-breasted Diana, as this is one interpretation by mainstream historians. However, as you look deeper, they are not breasts, but they are actually eggs or ovum, making it even more clear that this has to do with some type of mass repopulation process. Located in Rome is a fountain, the Fontana di Triton, which is a 17th century fountain located in the Piazza Berberini, which is a life-size Triton sea god depicted as a Phoenician mermaid kneeling on the stem of 4 dolphin tail fins. On this fountain is a coat of arms for the Barberini family, which shows their ties to bees.
There's nothing more powerful than creating a track, but sometimes creating music can be challenging. When I'm blocked or just getting an idea out, I need inspiration. That's why I trust Arcade. It's an instrument that creates endless possibilities. And Arcade gives you unlimited access to everything, even when you're just trying it out. There's so many ways to use Arcade. Like any other
My
song,
bad,
you might
y'all.
start with a
Stepped
sample.
away. My bad.
This symbolism is never fully explained and also merges with golden horseflies. Yet, the final symbol is the bee, which was used as an important symbol by the Barberini family, and so they would adorn their creations with the symbol. It's well known that this symbol is very important to them, but why? They were the head of the Catholic Church in the early 1600s, so perhaps they knew exactly what the symbol was referring to and how it was the symbol for Artemis. Also, alma mater and magna mater are another manifestation of breeding programs. It is Latin for nourishing mother, an allegorical Latin phrase for a university school or college that one formerly attended. And in the US, it means one that you graduated. It refers to the nourishing mother, the nursing mother, the fostering mother, meaning that these schools are breeding programs for the mind in which the mother is birthing the specific type worker-minded bees. The castle on the head is another symbol connected to the ancient Artemis and Liberty symbol, as this process of repopulation is crucial in the foundation and structure of the New World. Magna Mater was an ancient female Roman cult. The cult was introduced as a new form, the Phrygian goddess Mater, by way of its Greek incarnation, the cult of Cybele. You come to find out that there are many mother goddesses out there, and instead of them being just some random goddess that an entire ancient city would dedicate their entire religion and life to, What if these mother goddesses were actually some type of machine or method in which you could create clones? Where else did all these orphans come from? How do you have an abundance of premature babies? We know that they had infant asylums for just this problem, and it seems that these facilities were producing these babies en masse. I mean, some of these old pictures are very telling. You see children being prepared for the new world with mud in the streets. So the Statue of Liberty is Diana of Ephesus, and it is an occult symbol, the key in understanding of repopulation. Its supposed construction by Freemasons in 1886 brings suspicion to this being a symbol on how the United States acquired its new citizens. I also don't think that they were creating just humans. They were probably experimenting with all kinds of animal to humanoid ratios, creating the hybrids from myth and legend as well as the hybrid animals we know today. The Temple of Artemis is just one example, but now that we know the symbol is connected to many other goddesses, this most likely was all over the world. We see these depictions of hybrid beings from a variety of different cultures, and even the Bible says that the flood came because of the hybrids and giants that existed. Michael Tarsarian, who has heavily influenced our work, presents the Garden of Eden as after the flood and the timeline in which our forms were genetically altered to be more material and reptilian. Of course, his approach at the time was extraterrestrials. However, what if this goes deeper than some Anunnaki Sitchin novel, and perhaps we were referring to some type of advanced race of ancient humans that possess advanced technology and or knowledge of alchemy? Even the story of the homunculus and artificial man, the golem, are referencing a similar process in which an artificial man could be created through the elements. That'll have to be for the next video, but this symbolism is multi-leveled. On the surface, it is referring to some type of physical process in which an artificial human could be created. Alchemy is the origin of modern-day science, not too far out to consider that they may have been considering early forms of genetic engineering. The deeper meaning, and also the key to the Philosopher's Stone, is that this act of turning to gold is a reference for the higher self merging with the lower self, a creation of a spiritual body of light that can be controlled and manipulated. That's an entirely different subject, but this idea of creating humans and or breeding them are not new concepts. They have existed for ages now because again, when cataclysms occur, the bulk of the population is destroyed. There aren't too many options. You can either wait and build up again, or perhaps a method was devised to speed up the process by a couple generations. Foundling hospitals since their inception were funded by the elite royals, the choice of symbols being fitting. Are we not to question why their seal is Artemis? How are they finding so many orphans and premature babies? Well, orphanages go back to the time of Rome, and even one of the earliest orphanages that we know of is in Venice called La Pieta, which is a convent of monks and nuns. Since its origin, orphans had been the responsibility of the Catholic Church. Are we going to trust what they leave us with in terms of this all being an honest attempt to take care of the needy, when they are the ones who put the laws in place, are in charge of the economy, and yet all these poor families have to give up their children because of the society that they live in that is controlled by these Catholic rulers? Something else is going on if you ask me. And as we know now, these incubators were right by the foundling hospitals since they had so many premature babies for some reason. If you type baby incubators 1900s, you will first see the babies of Coney Island. But there's more to this story, as during the late 1800s, a physician, Martin Coney, had begun to demonstrate the efficacy of infant incubators throughout the US and Europe. They were showing these everywhere, and it's really not that advanced of an invention. Seems weird that this came out of nowhere. Then you start having these world fairs, and they're showing off these babies as some sideshow, and you could literally buy them so they were for sale. If they did this today, there would be all sorts of protest. But now, we know that these premature babies were orphans or foundlings of some kind. They had incubators in Buffalo, New York. at the Trans-Mississippi and International Exhibition in Omaha, Nebraska, Chicago, Jacksonville, Florida, and many more. These baby incubators were connected with the World Fair in Paris, where Martin Cooney also had an exhibit. Meaning, those postcards may have been developed in France, but the movies and images were not to promote one single event. This was a worldwide event occurring during this time, and that was the reason they were funded to make the movies and postcards. People from around the world were to be advertised these baby incubators. Some suggest that this may have been a factor in the sense of multiple women giving birth, but that also comes with many problems, and they actually still have these today.
Welcome to Raid Shadow Legends. If you're wondering just what you're getting into, Raid Shadow Legends is a...
So that's not too crazy at all, but it's very unhygienic and would cause issues in consistency. For more accuracy, cleanliness, you would need control over the environment. It would seem that multiple countries are involved in this in the modern day, and even if that is the explanation, it's still horrifying and strange that this isn't really well known. All they leave us with are occult symbols to decode. Well, I think there's even more to this story than just a literal sex factory, and it's interesting because this subject has really piqued the collective interest, it seems. As we mentioned at the beginning, Netflix randomly released Storks and it's at top 5 right now, so I never really heard of this movie, but I just wanted to mention a couple things. The movie has some crazy symbolism. Well, first, it's a high budget film around 70 million, and it's a movie about how storks in the past delivered babies. This was their duty, their passion, what they were born to do. And it's obvious from the beginning that they have some massive postal force. They mentioned at the beginning how there were rules that you could not form a bond with the baby, to not even treat it as human, but that they were just packages. The first packages that this postal service began with since its inception. Whoever made this movie or wrote in the symbolism knows what we're discussing about right now. Which makes it even weirder that they put this in the movie up during this time on Netflix. Well, the story goes that as this postal service developed into the modern day, they stopped delivering babies to the point where it essentially becomes myth and all the humans laugh at anyone who thinks these storks still deliver babies. But the weird thing about that is they say, "Oh sweetie, storks don't deliver babies anymore, but they used to a long time ago." So it's not that they don't do it or they think the idea is ridiculous, it's just that they don't do it anymore. And that's kind of where we start with this story, that this company called Corner Store, which is the original postal service that was delivering babies, turned into this huge corporation. This seems to be a blatant parody of Amazon, the modern day king of delivery. Keep in mind that this movie is from 2016. The main character is a weird comedic stork that wants to be boss desperately. He just follows the system, is willing to do anything for this fake illusion of success. Well, the boss wants to get rid of this orphan girl, which, that was weird to me. Right off the bat, they introduced this orphan character. That's no accident. Her name is Tulip, who is a human orphan raised by storks. The symbol of the tulip has been used by royalty as a symbol of wealth and prosperity. But red tulips, the girl's hair is chosen red on purpose. So we're speaking of red tulips. From the Buffalo News, February 28, 1897. Quote, Harvard men dined, made merry around the banquet table at the Saturn Club. The Harvard flag, a huge banner of the brightest crimson with the university's initial letter of corresponding size, as white as the driven snow in the center, floated from the staff of the Saturn Club yesterday, and it was significant of the banquet of the Harvard Alumni Association of Western New York. Crimson, the color which had urged the diners as students to ecstasies of affection for their alma mater, was the one decoration. There was about 100 alumni at a long table, which took in the whole length of the dining room. The scene was as pretty as good taste could have made it. The flag draped the wall near the head of the table, and the latter had in its center a bank of crimson flowers. This was flanked at either end of the table by the university letter in perfect formation and composed of red tulips. So for their altar mater ceremony, they dined with decorative red tulips. And remember, we're speaking of symbols. It's only when we learn to understand these symbols that a great veil can be lifted. It gets way deeper. After typing red tulip fertility, just looking for symbols, there are companies using these symbols where they advertise to grow your family using egg donors. Even specific phenotypes are possible. Now, my only question is, why use the symbol of the tulip? As we know, this means that the tulip means more than just a red flower. In many ways, it represents the sex organs themselves, as with the postcards. However, its main symbol representing fertility in children, specifically orphan children, lost blood. During the Dutch Golden Age, there was something called tulip mania. So this might be pretty controversial, but it's only when we ask questions can light be shed. This period involved a strange delusion where people began paying extraordinary prices for flowers and produce. And they have all sorts of excuses for why this is, but I find it interesting that this is a mainstream historical event, and it's called Tulip Mania. I believe that this might be an even older reference to these postcards, and it's from the 17th century. Oh, and get this, it wasn't just tulips that were overpriced, but cabbages. Let's remember that tulips and roses are very similar in appearance. There was a cabbage fever. Now, that seems so random to me. Why cabbages? We know that they use symbolism. Are they actually referring to something
To
else?
Cabbage Patch
This will have its
Babies.
own
That's what
video.
they referring
But
to.
basically, after the Dutch were supposedly liberated from the Spanish Empire in 1581, they just began growing tulips all around their palaces, and the rich began to become
Y'all know that's how they started this ancient symbolism. You know the early 1900s film, Cabbage Patch Babies. You feel what I'm saying? We can play that. I'm gonna play that in a second. Let's continue, man. Hit that like button. If you're enjoying the live stream, share the live stream. Support the channel, man. Support
referring
the
to
channel.
something else. This will have its own video. But basically, after the Dutch were supposedly liberated from the Spanish Empire in 1581, they just began growing tulips all around their palaces, and the rich began to become obsessed with tulips for no apparent reason. Well, this caused some type of economic bubble, or really some strange early created inflation. But what if it's not that these items became overpriced? It's that there are actually references to a different product. Could it be code? Quote, it is agreed that mania is a psychopathological disorder. Therefore, whoever speaks of tulip mania means the people who buy fleshy tulip bulbs have acted madly and irrationally. End quote. So they literally call these people insane for spending so much on tulips, cabbages, and carrots. Which I think there's a big joke at play here. Not only is this the origin of our money, but look at how they promoted this stuff. It's just like the postcards. Satirical cartoons. But these are even worse. Many of these satirical prints contain cabbages, showing the intimate relationship between tulips and cabbages. In one, Aesop pointed out a group of monkeys, the symbol for foolishness, eating cabbage while wolves chased innocent sheep. The title page on one play showed a satyr or pan drawing back a curtain on a scene crowned with a banner that read, Dit World vol Kool, the world full of cabbage. Beneath the banner is a crowd clamoring for pieces of paper in which were written the names of types of cabbages, including worthless cabbage, cowardly cabbage, and crazy cabbage. Another play referred to, quote, the company of cabbage. Many of these plays made references to carrot shares and cabbage selling. It's obvious that these vegetables were symbols for something else. Carrots, cabbages, and tulips can be seen in many of these early cartoons. In one, they're selling these tulips in a fool's cap. All of these early cartoons, which are the inspiration for later postcards, are complete with the symbolism of dark folly, or the fool's cap, or a Phrygian hat. These tulips would be sold for over £1,000 when one found them to be snow white and beautifully striped. Let's take a look at one cartoon that is clearly Freemasonic symbolism. It's called Ariel Quinn Actionist, a cartoon from De Groot Teferil der Dwarschild 1720, and this is in the British Library. You have two harlequins, or jokers, or mimes, that are on a stage opening a veil. At the top, you can see they're selling cabbages and carrots. But what's behind the veil? We see at the top that there is an owl, representing the cult of Minerva, and we see the Freemasonic compass, or corner right angle. Now, this isn't no ordinary depiction, and I love how they label this as just a satirical cartoon. I mean, what kind of sick people make stuff like this? Why are they inserting all sorts of things inside of their butts? And it gets worse. So this cartoon is a part of a series, and these really are the only images or depictions we have of this 720 crash. Which again, you really think they were just selling cabbages?
Hold on, I missed that. He
Look at
said
the
it was
symbols.
something. He said it was something getting stuck up these people's ass. I missed all that. What's going on?
I mean,
He
what kind of
tripping.
sick people make stuff like this? Why are they inserting all sorts of things inside their butts?
Oh, they tripping. Ancient sodomy? Oh, yeah, they tripping. They did my boy dirty. They got that nigga. Oh, they tripping. Sheesh. Look, Rob wish he was there. Rob wish that was him.
And we see the Freemasonic compass, or corner right angle. Now, this isn't no ordinary depiction, and I love how they label this as just a satirical cartoon. I mean, what kind of sick people make stuff like this? Why are they inserting all sorts of things inside of their butts? And it gets worse. So this cartoon is a part of a series, and these really are the only images or depictions we have of this 720 crash. Which again, you really think they were just selling cabbages? Look at the symbols. Look at what they left us with. We will break this down in another video, but real quick and then we'll get back to the source movie. Look at some of these images.
Growing up, I just had a vision for
Hey,
myself.
my
I
bad
always
about
knew
the
I wanted to
ass.
get my PhD.
But that's crazy though. Them people sticking all that shit up they motherfucking rectum and shit. And the images is here, man. This shit wicked.
Video. But real quick and then we'll get back to the source movie. Look at some of these images. There's no doubt that they were created by elites. Look at all the heraldry and royal symbols. But furthermore, there's mockery at play. There are too many images to go over right now, but there is one where they're introducing the book and you can see Lady Liberty, along with what seems to be a beehive with a baby angel holding a shield with two keys. The lady with the pillar is also holding a top hat, while the face of a person is being swapped, identity swapped. And then we see Medusa, or a lady with a snake that is dying. And under her left arm is the bottom of a barrel, or the hive, in which people, or babies, are coming out and they're throwing cabbages. They're throwing these cabbages into another scene where there's a devil and a crowd throwing a person into a flame, what would seem to be a sacrifice. These are the reset engravings from the early 1700s, and it also connects with other famous artists from England, but we'll discuss that in the next video. Essentially, They were using tulips and cabbage symbolism way before the 1800s, and it seems they use it as a means to promote some type of secret symbolism under the guise of satirical cartoons. And this is just way too weird. I mean, I couldn't make this up. Like, there's this one where they're literally trying to cut out the third eye and insert these new economic systems literally into our rears as if they're trying to forcibly manipulate our new forms. Well, back to the movie. So yeah, there's this deep symbolism behind tulips and cabbages, and the writers of this film seem to be fully aware of it. So the stork has to fire this orphan named Tulip, but it's her birthday and she's kind of cool, so the stork doesn't want to fire her because he feels bad for her. He's not like his boss who gets off on hurting others. So the stork comes up with an idea. Let's put her in the old letter room because no one sends in letters for babies anymore. You can even tell that this is an older building or something and different from the main corner store building, which really is just a large cargo container or trailer. Well, long story short, the orphan gets tired of being in the room, basically goes insane, and she eventually gets a letter from another character in the film, a child with the last name Gardner, whose parents are real estate agents. The boy is so lonely and desperately wants a little brother, so he hears about the storks and writes them a letter, the first letter in ages. So finally, the orphan gets a letter and she feels that she has a duty to be the manager of this new letter room. So she takes this letter to that old abandoned building, but the story character tries to stop her from doing anything else because he lied to the big boss that he fired her already. Basically, by accident, the stork and orphan were fighting over the letter and it enters his machine. This triggers the machine to start working, and it's revealed that the entire room is part of a literal baby factory.
Rise of Kingdoms PC version is out of beta. ROK is
Damn, get the fuck out of here.
Available for free on mobile.
Get the fuck out of here.
Tries to stop her from doing anything else because he lied to the boss that he fired her already. Basically, by accident, the stork and orphan were fighting over the letter and it enters his machine. This triggers the machine to start working, and it's revealed that the entire room is part of a literal baby factory. It's capable of producing billions of babies. And towards the end of the film, it's shown that this is actually an ancient castle, separated from the corner store. Think about it. Corner store, Freemasons. Why use Amazon? Is it a reference to Amazon women? Well, the cornerstone in Freemasonry is the basis upon which anything is founded. Hence, orphans, tulips, and foundlings. There's also a part where they lose the baby to some wolves, which made me think of the old stories of children being raised by wolves, famous from Roman mythology. The stork boss even tried to cover up this information in the movie. They didn't want people to know that they were producing babies again, because then their stocks would plummet. So essentially, a castle with an ancient advanced AI baby factory machine, kind of like Noah's Ark, was being used by the state, and these storks
like I told y'all yesterday, Noah's Ark.
But then over time, corporate evolution made this machine irrelevant, and so they no longer needed the storks. Also, they never really mention whether this world has sexual intercourse or not. They never have the birds and the bees conversation. I mean, why do we even call it that? And the Netflix movie I Am Mother, it's
the birds and the bees conversation? Get out of here.
Civilization after a major disaster. The primary crop grown in the surrounding land is corn. Another fertility symbol.
The birds and the bees, though?
Honeycombs. This also kind of connects with Children of the Corn, a society of children ruled by a demon. Well, we have an intimate relationship with storks, and it's way older than the Cabbage Patch Kids or the 1900s repopulation postcards. We have more to say on that as well. But for now, let's finish off with baby farming. Now, there's only so much I can say, and you'll have to do your own research here. But during the Victorian age, there was this phrase of baby farming, in which you had these women who owned these orphan homes, where the story goes that these women could no longer support the babies, so they literally would kill infants. It's a horrifying story, and there are many books on this subject. It's also happened in many places all throughout the world. I do think this is a cover story for something much deeper, as they had advertisements for these baby farms as well. They're from the 1860s, and so they're much more difficult to find.
Rise of Kingdoms PC version is finally out of its beta. Rise of Kingdoms is a
Yeah,
history strategy-based game available free on PC and on.
One article was literally called Wolves in Women's Clothing. So, if this was the state of childcare during the 19th century, then why do we trust anything from the mainstream source? It's our job to begin asking questions on how this all started and when it began. Even Vedic literature has references to hybrid beings and genetic manipulation. They had a similar science to alchemy with an understanding of different elements needed to create material flesh. There's this great channel that talks about these things where in ancient Vedic temples you can see that they had an understanding of some early form of DNA manipulation, even understanding what a sperm and egg looks like from a microscope. There was also this other temple that showed carvings on how they were experimenting with different hybrid creatures, which would also explain why we see so many strange beings in medieval depictions. Were these once real creatures? We get these depictions from some of the most famous philosophers and ancient historians. They believe them to be true as with the monstrous races of early Christian writings. In order to conclude, this history of test tube babies is also an obscure topic. But here you go. First you get a bunch of women, you give them fertility drugs, so they're extremely fertile. Then this simulates the development of extra eggs. Matured eggs are removed from the ovaries, and this is done with an ultrasound guided needle. Once these eggs are retrieved, they literally just put a sperm and egg in a petri dish. And you'll get some that fertilize, which is called an embryo. This embryo can continue to develop in the lab, and they have controlled conditions for this. Now in the modern day, they say that the term test tube baby is just a term to smear by the media, but this term is much older. Nowadays, once the embryo gets to a certain stage, they transfer it into a uterus or surrogate female. This process would have been attempted at some point in the past. There are other ways that the eggs could have been extracted. The earliest reference of test tube babies is a newspaper article from the American Guardian, January 4th, 1929. Chemists will be the only daddies someday, is prediction. And again, I think this is mockery, but let's read what they have to tell us. Bosses will order employees by certain plans and specifications, Britain believes. Test tube babies would be much like nature's own.
He's been asleep for 5,000 years.
Black Adam, we're here to negotiate your peaceful surrender. I'm not peaceful. Nor do I surrender.
This is a theory advanced by H.T. Rhodes, General Secretary of the British Association of Scientists. He believes that there will be little difference between the man born of woman and the man compounded in the test tube. We're just on the threshold of the discoveries chemists are making, Rhodes said. We have almost finished with analysis. We are passing on to synthesis, the building up and making of new and valuable products out of the meaner ones. The speculation is therefore almost forced upon us that in time we will be able to create living material. Professor Loeb years ago in an American university announced that he had succeeded in artificially fertilizing the eggs of the sea urchin. That was an enormous step forward. We know that man, the most highly complicated of all living things, after all, only a collection of cells. We know that protoplasm, that wonderful substance which is the very basis of what we call living things, is made up of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. We know the way the atoms were arranged. Someday, in a laboratory, some chemist may accomplish the union of these atoms in the same way. We will then have created protoplasm, thus causing life to manifest itself. Perhaps it will not end there. Something like man. Having produced protoplasm in a chemical laboratory, perhaps man will discover some process now unknown to us by which we can incubate and nurse, as it were, this substance so as to produce even more complicated forms of life. Finally, we may produce a living, moving being, something like ourselves. This may sound like a wild dream, but if you look back over the history of the last years and see what science has done, you may not be so skeptical. Ancient men of science simply collected facts. Modern men of science take these facts, theorize about the phenomena, prove their theories, and apply them to new inventions. The dreams of ancients are made to come true by the moderns. Centuries ago, men dreamed of flying, the wireless telegraph and telephone, the movies and the talkie. All the things that we consider commonplace would have seemed like black magic to the ancients. What we today dream of may happen in biochemical laboratories, maybe in 500 or 1,000 years be accomplished fact. Now, of course, they aren't going to tell you that they had already discovered this. That's why this is propaganda. They're programming you to believe in science fiction as if this is some faraway, distant future. When the reality is, they were experimenting with this in the 1700s. It just had a different name. The article even continues and explains what the society in the future would do with these synthetic humans. Which, think about it. Why are they even thinking about this stuff? It just seems weird that they would even promote it. Quote, to do dirty work. Suppose then it were possible in 1,000 years from now for a chemist to produce synthetic living things. They could be set to do a workday labor of the world, thus setting free those human beings naturally begotten to undertake further conquest.
Man, so make sure y'all hit that like button, man. I'm gonna end the video right here, man. We're gonna probably do a part 3, breaking down cloning. There's overwhelming data to support this understanding of the ancient technology that they have obviously hitting and then lucratively put a market into the private. And so, you know, shout out to everybody in the building. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Shout out to Don't Do It for supporting the channel earlier for the $1 challenge, man. Make sure y'all support the channel. Don't let Don't Do It be the only person that supports the channel today. Make sure y'all support the channel before we get out of here. I appreciate everybody that tapped in. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Make sure y'all be safe, be aware, stay vigilant, stay dangerous. It's your brother Aboriginal Power. This is the Wake and Bake Show. So make sure y'all support the channel on your way out. We done. Peace.
See, my life has been in motion. I'm a little windy. I'm not giving up yet. If you with me, time to place up your bet. Ain't no turning back, got niggas who ran. When we caught his ass, got caught in that jam. Yeah, you know who I am. Yeah, you know who I am. I can feel it coming. I can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. It's that feeling in your stomach, you can feel it coming. Yeah, you can feel it coming. Fake love, snake you in your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. Your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it. Too much fake love, that snake you in your face, love. Your face, love. That snake you in your face, love. I told my brothers we gon' make it, that's how God wrote it. And the snake gon' show his face, cause that's how God wrote it.